What is your best badass response? I am a 4th grade teacher, and one day I was up at the board and struggling to remember how to spell a particular word. I was trying to make light of it, telling the kids that sometimes adults need help with spelling too. One student replied, "It is because you were poorly educated, but don't worry, we are poorly educated too. Double whammy." Wow. At work, project management undercut and mismanaged a project so badly. They pushed getting minimum viable product out with the goal to roll out improvements later. Product release, they all patted themselves on the back and moved on. Then that minimum viable product broke. In a meeting we had with our directors about how it's so broken and the cost to fix, etc., no cost too big, unlimited manpower, I asked, how come we couldn't afford to do it right, but we can afford to do it twice? Strong, good work. I'll never forget the moment a family walked into the local pub I was working at while I was working. This big king of the grill, bold, alpha, patriarch dad type and his wife and kids came through. I said, "Welcome, where would you like to sit?" And he snapped back, "Well, a table would be nice." And without missing a beat at all, I replied, "Actually, we usually sit on the chairs here." Good work. I'll never forget the satisfaction of that moment or the look on his face. Haha. Respect should be earned, not given. To some old lady at an extended family gathering, she was saying some mean stuff about the homeless where she lived, and I told her how inconsiderate she was. Then she told me to respect her and not rebut her. I like it. Stick up for yourself. Good work. I was the lawyer in this criminal case arising out the Standing Rock events. That morning, some Lakota people had given us this traditional blessing to wish us well for the trial, and there were 5 to 7 activists sitting in the courtroom to watch and support us. It happened that there was a certain digital document that I needed before the jury got back from a break, and we didn't know just when the break would be over. I remember turning to the supporters holding up a thumb drive and telling them exactly what I needed from the office across the street and how to get it. I held out the thumb drive and with all the intensity of an ancient general sending his troops into battle said, "Fastest runner, go now." This tiny little young woman grabbed the thumb drive and hauled ass. She got back before the jury returned. Amazing. Working retail, a Karen, I love that everyone's just called a Karen, once told me she hoped I would die. What? I was so into work mode that I blankly responded, "I mean, we all die. That's not so much of a threat." Maybe it was my lack of intimidation or blank stare, but that really shut her up. Love it. I didn't realise the nature of my comment when I wrote it, but in high school, one of my teachers did end of the year anonymous evaluations. Everyone hated him, and I understood why, but I still did well in his class. I wrote, "I don't have any critiques about your teaching, but I think you should work on being a better person." Oh, yes, good work. Forensic biology professor brings out a fresh human brain as a surprise to a stunned class. Wow. You have no idea what I had to go through to get this. The skull? Good stuff. After 4 years in an abusive relationship and 1 year of an abusive marriage, I told my ex that I wanted a divorce. He told me that I couldn't divorce him or I'd go to hell. My response was, "Well, I guess I'll see you there." I then kicked him out of my house, for which he had never paid a dime in bills, and told him to call his mum for a plane ticket. There we go. Good for you. Not the most badass story here, but it felt good. When I was 12, my older sister had a boy over for Thanksgiving dinner. She dated lots of douches, but this guy took the cake. Big, brash, annoying dickhead who was rude to her and basically everyone. As we sat down for dinner, before we were about to say what we were thankful for, he says inaudible moron grunts. "Huh? Looks like I'm seated at the head of the table. must be important, with a huge eating grin. Without pausing, I gesture to my dad seated opposite him and said, actually, my dad is at the head of the table. You're the asshole. Yes, let's go. My mum scolded me for swearing at the table, but years later told me her and my dad thought it was hilarious. Amazing. At university, we have to present our senior projects in front of the whole department. Stage fright sucks, and everyone else had a more interesting project, in my opinion. The badass moment was that my name was misprinted on the schedule and I got welcomed to the stage under the wrong name. The first thing I did was point to my real name on my presentation and say, that's how my real name is spelled. It's just pronounced weird. A bunch of people laughed and I got commended by a few people for adding humour to the driest 3 hours of the year. Oof. That's a long time. Not me, my daughter. This boy at school called her retarded. Her response, no, I'm autistic. I don't know what your excuse is. She was in 6th grade. I was pretty shocked when I got that phone call. Good work. She usually doesn't say things to people. I was working IT for a company where Network Solutions had a massive DNS outage. My manager, GM of the company, smart but not IT, asked me what was wrong besides DNS on the host side. My response was, DNS acts like a phone book, looking up our web address and directing it to the correct place. The phone book is on fire. I worked at Target back in college in a stocking job where we had to be there at like 4 or 5 a.m. to unload trucks. One morning I overslept a bit and walked to the unpacking line about 10 minutes late eating a breakfast bar. The boss stormed over and started loudly berating me in front of everyone for being late. As he was going on, I was listening and taking bites of the bar without much expression, mainly because I was so damn tired. It finally bothered him that I was disrespectfully chewing during the yelling, and he stopped mid-sentence, held out his hand and said, "Give me that damn thing." It just happened that I only had one bite left, so I took it, handed him the wrapper and said thanks with a mouthful of food. He paused and started laughing at the ridiculous response to his bitching. We were buddies after that. Young male, travelling with a bunch of other males. Border Patrol, we were being searched for drug smuggling. Border Patrol agent, you know I have the authority to cavity search you. Me, somehow without skipping a beat? Sure, you might, but neither of us would enjoy it and you wouldn't find anything. Off the hook, no fingers in my butt. Oh. I was accused of being passive aggressive. I replied, which part sounded passive? I don't ever want to come across as passive. I like that response, that's great. I'm a writer and I do a bit of stand-up comedy. As such, people tend to introduce me to new people as a comedian/writer. So I was outside a bar smoking with a friend of a friend. He then introduced to one of his friends. His friend was dressed like Liam Gallagher from Oasis and seemed to exude a bit of a cocky, sneery manner. The introduction went thusly. Friend of friend, Mr. Gallagher, this is Writer of Wrongs. He's a comedian. Mr. Gallagher looks me up and down. Comedian, eh? Does that mean you think you're funny? Writer of Wrongs. No, it means everyone else does. I literally do not know where it came from. I didn't think about the response, it just came out. And it is hands down the greatest thing I've ever said. Amazing. At work, at a company meeting, someone was presenting something cool they volunteered to work on and finished. They then explained things they thought they could do better in a self-depreciating way, and a bunch of other people started railing into his work with petty criticism. It was definitely good work though, and a thought just hit me, so I blurted it out. Sometimes done is the best feature. A bunch of people laughed and then the criticism stopped. People gave him kudos and we moved on. Not really badass, but I was surprised this thought somehow came out fully formed, like it was some phrase I've been saying for decades. Amazing. I guess I was just realising how many people don't finish anything they start, so done suddenly seemed like a pretty damn good feature. Give the man some credit for finishing the damn thing. Back in high school, I was a slow fat kid. For PE, we'd jog about 1 kilometre to the beach, have a swimming lesson, then jog back. I was the last one back to the school grounds and the teacher was standing at the gate. He told me that because I was too slow, he was going to lock the gate and I'd have to jog to the next one 200 metres away. I said that I'd consider him locking me out of school grounds to be a suspension and just go home. He let me in straight away. Kinda wish he'd tried calling my bluff so I could have followed through and just gone home. That was good, I like that one. I was in an acting class in college and we were doing a scene where a couple was having a big drawn out fight. Multiple pairs went through the scene and I studied it pretty hard so I knew all the lines. We're about halfway through our performance when my partner clearly forgets what a line is, and because everyone was doing that scene they could tell she had forgotten as well. Her next line was supposed to be, "Well, I'm sorry I asked." I'm not usually a quick thinker on my feet, but I just filled the second or two of awkward silence with, I bet you're sorry you asked, huh?" and continue on with my lines. Not overly badass per se, but the class and professor loved it and all laughed. Probably the only quick-witted thing I've ever done in my life. The Hoagie Man says, I already posted here, but I just thought of another story. There was this one extremely attractive girl in my Com 101 class in college. One day, for a project where we interviewed other students, I was partnered with her. We ended up not finishing our questions in class, so I asked her if I could meet her somewhere to finish interviewing her. She said yes. Fast forward to the next day, I meet after her dance group finishes rehearsal. I knock through the last few questions and the final one which I ask is, what do you perceive the future to hold? She replies, I don't even know what I'm having for dinner tonight. I have no idea what the future holds. So I say, well, if you don't know what you're having for dinner, do you want to have dinner with me? Oh, go on lad. She laughed, said yes, and though we only hooked up that night, I still look back on that day as one of the best dating stories I've had yet. Good work. I worked at a bookstore and a customer asked me how often do the periodicals come out. I deadpanned periodically and he asked to speak to my manager. Worth it. Go wait with mummy. Daddy might be going back to jail again. Guy pushed my 5-year-old daughter at the fish store and she started crying. When he heard me say that he ran out of the store, I've never been to jail before. Ooh, edit grammar, strong. Me and my girlfriend at the time were having a discussion about her going back to school. She kept putting it off every semester, and one day she got angry at me trying to get her to actually go back. Not just talked about it, and she yelled. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I responded, yeah, but it was built, and a decade later I still think of that. Edit, she did end up going back to school, got her masters even, good work. She's married now with twins, just a real asshole. At a party a few years back, someone stole my friend's purse. Her boyfriend found the guys who took it and got it back for her, but he was still in an angry, drunken rage and was continuing to escalate the situation when he was well outnumbered. My friend finds me and says, I'm afraid, boyfriend, is about to get into a fight. I need your help. Stop him, please. I stand up and I tell her, I can't promise you I can stop him from fighting, but I can promise you I won't let him lose. Before walking off to find him. Ultimately, no fight actually broke out, and I didn't realise that I had basically said a cheesy one-liner until after the fact when my friend told me how intense that line was. I didn't mean for it to sound so dramatic, I just wanted to let her know I wouldn't let him get his ass kicked. I didn't mean to make it sound like I was about to demolish 3 guys by myself like I'm some sort of action hero. Amazing work. I don't know about badass, but years ago I worked at a Hard Rock cafe and we often had pre-shift server meetings outdoors on a patio, and my wild boss was droning on about us selling more overpriced plastic cups. I was staring off at the spinning globe on top of the building that says "Save the Planet" on it. I interrupted my boss by blurting out, if Hard Rock is trying to save the planet, why do we waste so much paper? which was really directed at my managers, who had a hard-on for printing out stupid memos. They somehow didn't realise it was about them specifically and passed the comment up the food chain, which ended up resulting in the entire company changing their payroll system to paperless, globally. As a reward, I was given a pin shaped like a light bulb that said "bright idea" on it. Thanks, I guess. We had a overly dramatic neighbour who always claimed she was sick and dying. My mum came to see my kids in the middle of battling stage 4 lung cancer. The neighbour pulled her. "Hi Rita, so glad to see you. Did Jason tell you that I am dying?" My mum looked right at her, smiled and said, "Me too dear, but not today." Never more proud of her. This one had a little setup, but I think it's funny enough to share. At a family vacation, my grandmother was giving me grief for not remembering her birthday. I've never been good with her birthdays. After telling me it was the password to her iPhone, she wanted me to take a picture with it, which is why I needed the password. While she was distracted, I opened up the settings, changed her password to my birthday, and then set her phone down. Cue, 15 minutes later, she's trying to get into her phone and it's not working. Suspecting mischief, she grumpily asked me if I've changed the password to her phone in front of our entire family. I admit that I did. "Well, what is it?" she asked impatiently. "It's my birthday." She sat there in stunned silence for about 15 seconds, not being able to remember my birthday, before our family exploded laughing. It was a good time. Good work. Was eating McDonald's with a few friends and I started choking. The only thing I managed to say in the whole ordeal was, "I'm McJoking." Good stuff. Around the time I was 12, I was at a family party with my dad and aunts and uncles. My dad told me that one of my uncles owned several bars. My response? "Oh, it's good that he got into a business that he knows something about." I had no idea what I was really saying. I thought I was giving him a compliment. That one wasn't that good. A long time ago, I was walking down a side street in a medium-sized town with my girlfriend. A car was parked ahead, with the front of her car facing us as we approached. I could see two kids, maybe in their late teens, and instantly could tell they were likely going to say something, as my girlfriend was rather attractive. As soon as we come up next to them, I hear, "Hey baby, ditch the zero and come hang out with the hero." I could feel my blood boil, but I kept my cool and calmly said, "Sorry buddy, I'm not gay, and don't call my girlfriend a zero." Oh yes, let's go. Good work. The dude's friend started laughing at him, and my girlfriend made our sarcastic crying face. Then we both started to laugh. Amazing. When I was 7, some girls were bullying me at school. I just learned the word mutual. One of the bullies said, "We don't like you," and I said, "The feeling's mutual," and then walked off. There you go. I'm 37 now and still remember it. Amazing. Long story short, my friend would share my sexcapades with other people, which I would rather he didn't. Got fed up and ended up blurting out, "Just because you don't have your own stories to share doesn't mean you have to share mine." Oh, very good. There's no way you're this much of an asshole naturally. You must go home and practice. I said this to a co-worker who was throwing a fit and bullying a quieter co-worker because he was pissed off. He had a habit of just being a giant douche anytime things didn't go his way. This comment pissed him off so much he just stormed into his office and stayed there the rest of the day. Win for the rest of us. This was back in my junior year of college. At the beginning of the semester, I was introducing myself to my very intimidating biochemistry professor. Guy was a genius but also a hard ass. Students were all terrified to ask him questions because he was known for grilling people, and if they hadn't made enough effort beforehand, he'd send them out of his office to learn on their own. As I walked into his office, he was sorting through some boxes and made a really sarcastic comment regarding stuffing me in the box and shipping it off somewhere. He looked up for my response and I just blurted out without thinking, "I wouldn't mind going somewhere nice." Dude laughed so hard it actually startled me a little. We got along pretty well for the remainder of the semester, so it all worked out really well. It's amazing what a little laughter can do to ease tension.